Whoa. No way. Is this? I'm struggling right now.
Right in front of me is my boss, her skirt flipped up, showing off her seductive legs without a hint of modesty.
I swallowed involuntarily.
Just as my hand, fully guided by reason, reached out to pull her skirt back down, my boss, who should have been asleep, suddenly opened her eyes.
Don't touch me. You pervert.
She slapped my hand away as she bolted upright, and the words social annihilation flashed in my mind.
My life is over.
As I thought that, my boss, exuding an aura of sensuality, tried once again to break my self-control with, "Aren't I amazing? I'm Richard, 29 years old.
I work for a travel-related company."
Hey, Mike.
What happened with that project from the other day? I'm in the sales planning department. As soon as a cold, emotionless woman's voice echoed through the office, a wave of tension swept over us.
The voice belonged to Kimberly. She has sleek, long black hair and pale skin, combined with her sharp, almond-shaped eyes, not the trendy large double-eyelid ones. She is the epitome of traditional Japanese beauty and the kind of woman who catches everyone's attention, admired by countless employees.
Both men and women.
However, nobody in this company dares to approach her casually. Because she's known as the Snow Queen. Mike, now called out by Kimberly, nervously began his report at her desk.
Yes.
So first, I contacted the local city hall's PR office, and I discussed our plan with them.
Skip the details. Just tell me the results.
The moment Kimberly cut him off, the entire department fell silent, as if the air had dropped to freezing temperatures. Her expression didn't change, and her voice showed no hint of emotion. When she looked at you with those piercing eyes, it felt like your body froze. Mike, under pressure, stumbled through his words before handing over the summary report and contracts. By the time he returned to his seat, he collapsed onto his desk, like ice melting after being broken.
Poor guy. Efficiency is everything. Results over process. A classic old-school worker. Kimberly is the epitome of the workaholic who demands efficiency and loathes anything wasteful. She's strict and cold.
That's why we call her the Snow Queen. She's cold to everyone, but she's even colder to me.
It's not just cold, it's like she's indifferent.
She never asks me about my personal life, and when it comes to work, she only checks on the bare minimum progress.
She's never really scolded me either. She probably doesn't expect anything from me at all. It's been 7 years since I joined this company.
I'm not particularly good at sales planning, but I don't cause any major problems either.
In short, I'm just average. There's nothing to gain from standing out in life anyway.
So why would someone like Kimberly, the Snow Queen, take any interest in me, let alone choose me to assist her with her work?
Or so I thought. Richard, I need you to accompany me on a business trip next Friday.
A trip to a regional hot spring area. She personally requested me to assist her.
Me? Yes. The meeting with the client is scheduled for the evening, so it'll be an overnight stay.
Surprisingly, she seemed considerate of my weekend plans, noting that the Saturday might be impacted by the overnight stay.
Turns out, she's not as old-fashioned as I thought. Yes. No problem at all. As I responded, I could hear the other employees behind me quietly murmuring, "Why Richard?" I could hear them quietly grumbling, "It didn't have to be him."
It was unusual for Kimberly to assign an assistant for business meetings. Yet, she had chosen me, someone rather unremarkable. Their complaints and doubts were completely understandable. For this meeting, we'll be aligning our proposal with the client's requests. The key is being able to support the negotiations smoothly without getting in the way. I need someone who can quickly adapt to the client's needs and adjust our proposal on the spot.
I judged Richard to be the right person for that. Do you need any more reasons?
Kimberly's words, sharp as ever, shut down any further grumbling. Even I, the person she was praising, was left speechless, not expecting such an evaluation from her.
I'll send you the details by the beginning of next week.
With that, Kimberly ended the conversation and turned her attention back to the documents in front of her. I bowed, holding back a heavy sigh as I returned to my seat.
The next Friday, Kimberly and I took the afternoon bullet train to our business trip destination.
There was still some time before the train's departure. I took care of some errands first and decided to grab a snack, letting Kimberly know before I stepped out of the waiting room.
Kimberly's favorite coffee is this one, right? As I returned with drinks for both of us, I noticed an elderly woman with a cane looking around anxiously. I checked my watch. There were about 20 minutes left before the train departed. Having been raised by my grandmother, I couldn't just ignore someone in trouble, so I approached her.
"Is something wrong?" The woman, still looking around, turned her worried gaze to me.
"I think I lost my wallet." "A lost wallet is a serious issue. Do you remember where you last used it?" "I bought my bullet train ticket and went straight through the gate."
She realized it was missing when she tried to buy a drink inside the station. I looked around, but there was no wallet in sight. "Let's go check at the ticket counter where you bought your ticket."
"Oh, I couldn't ask you to go out of your way for me."
"It's no trouble, we still have some time." I couldn't leave this elderly woman with her cane and large duffel bag to manage on her own. I took her bag and escorted her to the ticket counter. Luckily, her wallet had been turned in.
"Oh, thank you so much.
I'm so sorry to have troubled you."
"Please let me do something to thank you."
The relief on her face was palpable as she repeatedly bowed in gratitude.
"It's really no big deal. There's no need to thank me." But when I checked my watch again, I blurted out, "Oh no." There were only 5 minutes left until the train's departure.
The woman was still trying to thank me, but I quickly said, "Please don't worry about it.
I've got to go," and rushed off.
When I reached the platform, the train doors were already open, and I jumped on just in time. Trying to catch my breath, I made my way to my seat, realizing that a full sprint is tough for someone in their late 20s.
It was hard to get my breathing back to normal.
"Richard, where did you go?"
"I was calling you so many times, I thought you wouldn't make it." Still panting as I sat down, I immediately got a scolding from Kimberly.
Her voice had an unusual hint of emotion, making it clear that she had been worried about my absence.
"Sorry."
"Oh, here's your coffee." I was strangely pleased that I had managed to stir even a little emotion in her, and I couldn't help but chuckle through my still labored breathing. Trying to cover it up, I handed her the coffee I had just bought.
"Well, you made it, so I guess it's fine. But please be more careful next time."
She stared at the coffee for a moment, then in a slightly uncertain tone, gave me another warning. When I replied with "I'll be careful," I heard a soft, almost muttered thanks for the coffee.
An hour from the city center, we arrived at a coastal hot spring town.
In front of the bustling station, filled with tourists, Kimberly and I stood out in our business suits. Since we were returning the next morning, I only brought a backpack with my work essentials.
In contrast, Kimberly was pulling along a rolling suitcase.
I figured she had more luggage because she's a woman, but the suitcase seemed quite large for just a one-night stay. "This is my hometown, and I'm going to visit my family tomorrow." It seemed Kimberly noticed my curious glance at her suitcase, so she explained.
I was surprised to learn that this coastal town was where she grew up. It felt unexpected.
I wanted to ask more, but I doubted she'd be open to talking about her personal life.
Suppressing my curiosity, I looked around.
The area in front of the station was bustling with tourists, lined with souvenir shops, many selling dried seafood and other local specialties. The mouth-watering smells of grilled fish from the storefronts filled the air, teasing my appetite. Amidst the tempting smells, the scent of the sea mixed in, and I muttered to myself, "Smells like the ocean. If you go down the hill, you'll reach the ocean."
The wind must be carrying the scent up here today.
I caught a glimpse of Kimberly's profile, and it looked like she was smiling gently, but she quickly reminded me that we were short on time.
And we headed straight to the meeting. The meeting lasted about 2.5 hours.
In addition to being a popular tourist destination, the area was actively engaged in promotional activities. The client was very enthusiastic about our proposal for regional revitalization, and the meeting successfully resulted in a formal contract. Afterward, the client kindly hosted a dinner, where we enjoyed local seafood freshly caught at the nearby port and regional craft beer.
Perfect for the tourist atmosphere. I never thought I'd end up working with Kim.
The person speaking to Kimberly in such a casual tone was the client's manager, who had joined us for the dinner.
He seemed to be a local and appeared to know Kimberly from before. Are you going to drop by Ben's place? I'm thinking about it for tomorrow. I see, everyone's been worried since you haven't been showing up to the union meetings. They're wondering if something's wrong.
The conversation seemed personal, and I noticed a slight shift in Kimberly's expression, as if her mood had darkened. Feeling like an outsider in their conversation, I chose to focus on chatting with the other attendees, letting them have their private discussion. After the dinner, Kimberly and I headed to the business hotel where we had a reservation.
I am terribly sorry,
the hotel receptionist said, bowing deeply.
Are there no more rooms available?
We have one twin room left, but we cannot provide two separate rooms. We also checked with nearby accommodations, but they are fully booked as well.
The room we had reserved wasn't actually available. It might have been a double booking between the company's reservation system and another site.
With the increase in inbound tourism and the recent staffing shortages in hotels, this issue had become more common. It was past 9 p.m. on Friday in a popular tourist area, and there were no other rooms or accommodations available.
Sharing a room with someone of the opposite sex at our age.
And with Kimberly, of all people, there was no way that could be okay. Then, we'll take that one room for two people, please. Despite my nervousness, it was Kimberly who calmly booked the room.
Excuse me, but there's still time to catch a train. I can head back to Tokyo.
As your superior, I can't let you travel that distance at this hour.
Plus, we still have a little work to finish. Staying in the same room will be more efficient. After all, it's just for sleeping. Do you have any issues with that? Of course, there's an issue. My internal scream didn't seem to reach Kimberly, who was already checking us in.
It seemed her mind was already made up. This is work, this is work. I kept repeating it to myself, trying to steel my resolve.
I'm struggling right now.
In front of me lies Kimberly, stretched out on the bed. Still dressed in her suit, her tight skirt has ridden up, revealing her long, slender legs without hesitation.
How did it come to this?
I held my head in my hands.
For the first hour, we had been summarizing the details of the meeting.
Once we finished, when I opened the fridge to grab a can of beer I had bought earlier, she said, "I think I'll have one too." Kimberly was the one who suggested it herself.
She doesn't usually attend company drinking events.
She only shows up to the necessary farewell or year-end parties, and I'd always seen her drinking only soft drinks.
I had assumed she either couldn't drink or disliked alcohol, but apparently, I was wrong.
As an apology for the hotel's mistake that led to us sharing a room, they offered us free drinks from the minibar. The sound of the local beer's tab popping open echoed with a satisfying click.
Thanks for today. The meeting went smoothly thanks to you, Richard. Well done.
Cheers. With a slight smile, Kimberly raised her beer toward me and took a big gulp. Her unexpected words of appreciation made me smile naturally as well.
Cheers, and thank you for everything, I said, raising my own can and taking a drink.
Kimberly quickly finished her beer and, looking pleased, reached for a canned cocktail next. Seeing her smiling and drinking happily, far from the usual composed Snow Queen demeanor she's known for at work,
would have shocked everyone at the office. Richard, you should really be better at promoting your accomplishments.
Kimberly spoke unusually cheerfully, but her words were starting to slur slightly.
She probably wasn't very strong with alcohol.
It was already a rare experience to talk with her one-on-one like this. But seeing her cheerful and tipsy was an unexpected perk of this business trip. I'd been drinking at a decent pace too, and when I checked the time, I saw it was already past midnight. When we started discussing calling it a night, she offered me the shower first, saying, "You go ahead." Still holding her canned cocktail. She seemed in no rush to sleep. Feeling a bit drowsy, I gratefully accepted and headed to the shower. And that's how we ended up here, me in a mental struggle. I couldn't take my eyes off Kimberly's seductive legs as she lay passed out drunk.
And I could see it. That piece of fabric under her skirt.
The drowsiness that had clouded half my brain instantly vanished, replaced entirely by a flood of desire.
Gulp. I could hear the sound of my own throat swallowing loudly. My hand, moving slowly, hesitated for a moment. The urge to pull her clothes further up, to indulge in the sight of her legs. Slap. I smacked my own left cheek. What the hell am I thinking? Get a grip. Using every ounce of self-control, I reached out to pull her skirt down, covering her exposed legs. At that moment, Kimberly, who I thought was fast asleep, suddenly opened her eyes and locked gazes with me as my hand was still on her skirt. Oh, crap. I froze as cold sweat broke out all over my body, despite having just taken a shower. What are you doing? You pervert. I couldn't move my hand from her skirt, and what I heard next was, of course, a voice full of justified outrage. No, no. It's not what it looks like. I swear. Panicking, I struggled to find the right words, unable to explain myself properly, and could only keep repeating, "It's not what it looks like." What do you mean, it's not what it looks like? You lifted my skirt, and you were looking at my underwear, weren't you? I didn't lift it. Okay, maybe I saw a little, but it wasn't on purpose. You fell asleep while I was in the shower. And your skirt rode up because of how you were lying. I was just trying to cover you up because it was exposed. As Kimberly raised her voice, I became even more flustered, too frantic to choose my words carefully. You were looking, weren't you? No, I wasn't. I swear, it wasn't intentional. I didn't want to look. I don't make moves on drunk people, especially not my boss. Desperately trying to explain myself, I suddenly realized that Kimberly's expression had turned hurt from my words. I see. Someone like me, you'd never make a move on someone like me. Wait, no, that's not what I meant. An uptight, boring, and unappealing snow queen like me. I was stunned to realize that Kimberly knew about that nickname, and I was at a loss for words. Taking my silence as confirmation, she sank deeper into her own thoughts, muttering, "I knew it, someone like me." As she spiraled into self-pity. Come on, this is ridiculous. Does she really not know how attractive she is? A cheerful drunk is fine, but this teary, self-pitying version was a nightmare. No, you've got it all wrong. I swear I didn't try anything. But do you honestly think I felt nothing seeing you like that? Right now. I'm barely holding back from jumping on you. Kimberly, who had been slumped over and clutching the blanket, suddenly looked up, as if jolted by my words. You want to jump on me? Of course I do. You're an incredible woman. So much so that I want to undress you right now. What am I even saying to my boss? I ran my hand through my hair in frustration as the weight of my reckless words began to sink in. This is definitely sexual harassment. More like beyond it. I cautiously glanced at Kimberly to see her face turning bright red, her mouth opening and closing without any sound. But I won't lay a hand on you. I wouldn't reduce you to something like that. My feelings for you aren't like that. She was speechless. Her eyes widened, and her face flushed even more deeply at my words. Wait, did I just confess? Maybe I'm the one who's drunk. I didn't mean it like that. I started, but then I heard a soft, "I'm happy." Ha! I looked at Kimberly, and with her eyes shimmering and her face still red, she smiled beautifully at me. Please be my boyfriend. The next morning. So, feel free to call me Kimberly or Kim. Just something more casual.
As if she wasn't the same person who had bared her heart last night, Kimberly, now in full work mode, was explaining today's schedule to me.
Kimberly's confession from last night.
In reality, it was a request for me to pretend to be her boyfriend. Today, she needed me to help out at her family's restaurant, near the coast, as her boyfriend for the day. Every time I visit, my family keeps asking about my relationship status and marriage, and it's been stressing me out.
I haven't come home in years because of it. I figured if I brought a boyfriend along, it'd take the pressure off. With Kimberly bowing deeply and apologizing for the trouble, I couldn't bring myself to refuse, and now here I am,
standing in front of her family's diner. For the record, nothing more happened last night. After her shower, Kimberly went straight to bed.
Thanks to that, I barely got any sleep. Can you fillet a horse mackerel? Barely after exchanging greetings, I was hit with a question, to which I could only respond with a confused, huh?
If you can't even make mackerel sashimi, I won't acknowledge you.
You'd be useless in this shop. Dad, why are you assuming I'm going to take over the shop?
I've told you 100 times, I'm not taking over the shop.
Richard works at the same company as I do.
There's no way we're staying in this small-town shop. Kimberly's father, Benjamin, looked like the typical stubborn diner owner. His sharp eyes were very much like hers.
Then why did you bring him here?
To show off some city guy?
I don't care about that. We're opening for lunch soon. Just get out of here.
It was clear that Kimberly's father didn't approve of me, and he continued gutting fish while coldly dismissing me.
Benjamin, I may not be able to fillet fish, but I can help with orders or anything else you need.
Please let me assist you. Even if it was just for a day, I wanted to play the role of her boyfriend properly.
I don't need you calling me Benjamin either. I couldn't help but stammer, sorry. It felt like something out of an old-fashioned drama. Dad, why do you have to be like this? You've been pestering me about marriage and grandkids for ages, so I brought him here. Besides, you've been complaining about your back pain. Shouldn't you take a break? I'm not sick. Don't make me sound like an invalid.
Kimberly, who normally never shows her emotions, was now speaking so emotionally in front of her parents. I found myself thinking that, after all, she turns into a daughter when she's around them.
I'm sorry you had to see that. Those two are always like this when they see each other. They're just too similar,
said her mother, Samantha, as she gently placed a glass of Calpico in front of me, not seeming troubled at all.
She was clearly used to their family quarrels. Oh, but really, we don't need any help. The shop has been so quiet lately. Even on the weekends, when we should be busiest, it's completely dead.
As Samantha spoke with a worried expression, Benjamin's voice suddenly cut in, "Don't say unnecessary things."
Huh? Why all of a sudden?
Just as Kimberly, who seemed to be hearing about the shop situation for the first time, was about to ask for more details, the sliding door of the shop swung open.
Hello. A man, probably in his mid-40s, walked in wearing sunglasses that shone unnaturally. The shop's not open yet. Get out,
Benjamin said coldly as soon as he saw him. I was just stopping by to say hello to the neighbors since I'm in the area. I thought this place had already gone under, but I guess it hasn't yet.
This shabby, poorly reviewed restaurant is still hanging on, huh?
The man, who was striding into the shop with a rude attitude, made me furrow my brow.
And who might you be?
If you're not a customer, please leave, Kimberly said with a sharp look, clearly annoyed, and urged him to leave.
Oh, what a pretty young lady. If you're not a customer, then you must be the daughter, right?
I'm Daniel, from the shop across the street. Daniel, the owner of a seafood restaurant that had opened about 2 months ago, leered at Kimberly from head to toe, a sleazy grin on his face. He apparently runs several restaurants in major cities and popular tourist destinations.
This coastal hot spring town had once been a thriving tourist destination, but over time, it had declined.
Abandoned hotels lined the hills, and most of the shops in the shopping district were shuttered.
In recent years, however, thanks to a younger generation taking over and newcomers from the city, the town had started regaining its vibrancy and re-emerged as a tourist hotspot.
With that resurgence came people like Daniel, looking to profit from the renewed popularity of the area.
"Didn't you hear me? I said get out."
Benjamin repeated in a low voice, and Daniel, now holding up his smartphone, sneered, "I'd better post this terrible customer service on social media, so no one comes to this awful shop."
"Hey!"
Kimberly raised her voice, but I quickly stepped in front of her, directing my own phone at Daniel.
"If you post anything online, we'll take legal action. You don't have permission to film here. Now, get out of our shop. If you refuse, I'll call the police. You know, what you're doing falls under defamation, intimidation, and trespassing, right?" "Just kidding. Come on, let's get along as neighbors. Look, see? I didn't record anything. But who knows how long a poorly reviewed shop like this will last? Anyway, I'll be going now."
Clearly shaken by my words, Daniel grimaced, clicked his tongue, and finally left the shop. I let out a long breath I didn't realize I'd been holding, only to find Kimberly staring at me in amazement.
"Richard, that was impressive. It's just some stuff I picked up online. I'm not sure how accurate it is, but I figured a restaurant owner wouldn't want to cause any trouble. It was a bit of a gamble since he seemed like a sketchy guy."
Still, Kimberly and her mother, Samantha, praised me enthusiastically, making me feel a bit embarrassed. But Benjamin, on the other hand, looked displeased.
"When did this become your shop, huh?"
He seemed upset by the fact that I had referred to it as our shop during the confrontation.
"It was just an instinctive response in the heat of the moment. Dear. He stood up for us, and that's how you thank him?" "Exactly. He protected the shop."
Before I could even apologize, Samantha and Kimberly were already scolding Benjamin. Faced with the pressure from the two women, Benjamin swallowed his words and ended up with a sheepish expression on his face.
"Gore. You. Have you eaten lunch yet? Stay and eat." As Benjamin grumbled and disappeared into the kitchen, Samantha smiled and said, "That's his way of showing gratitude. Sorry about that."
As I bowed toward his back, saying, "Thank you," I suddenly heard him groan in pain. Benjamin let out a groan of pain as he collapsed to his knees, clutching his body in discomfort.
"Benjamin."
We rushed over to him, and his face was twisted in pain, sweat beading on his forehead.
"I'm calling an ambulance." Without hesitation, I quickly dialed for help. The diagnosis from the local hospital where Benjamin was taken was kidney stones. Although immediate first aid was provided, the doctor explained that there was also a stone large enough to require surgery, and he would need to stay in the hospital for about a week. He has never had kidney stones before. He hasn't been sleeping well recently either. Maybe it's from stress. But I'm just so relieved it's not life-threatening," Samantha said, breathing a sigh of relief. I felt the same sense of relief, and a soft "that's good" escaped my lips. "Thank you for being here with me,"
Kimberly said, looking up at me with a grateful but slightly sad expression. Leaving Samantha at the hospital to stay with Benjamin, Kimberly and I returned to the diner to prepare for the temporary closure of the shop.
"Thank you for helping with all of this, Richard."
"I'm sorry to burden you," Kimberly said quietly as she started tidying up. "I've been worried about my father's health since my mom mentioned he wasn't doing well recently. I've always been defiant whenever they brought up marriage, but I also felt a need to show my face and reassure them.
That's why I asked you for such a big favor. I'm sorry for dragging you into this. You don't need to apologize," I replied softly, matching her tone. I really didn't feel like she was a burden at all. This place is a tourist spot, but it's still a small town, you know?
Everyone knows each other, and rumors spread fast. Like, if someone from the Smith family went out last night, it'd be all over town by morning. It's such a typical small-town vibe, and I hated it. I wanted to leave and make a name for myself in Tokyo, not stay in this little diner. It was a huge deal for my parents to send me to university in Tokyo, running a small diner and all. Now that I'm older, I finally realize how hard that must have been for them. It's taken me this long to want to be a good daughter, now that my dad's not in great health. I feel so selfish. But you've worked hard and been successful in Tokyo. You've achieved your dreams, and that's also a way of being a good daughter, I said, trying to reassure her. Kimberly smiled, though with a hint of sadness, and replied, I'm just a token at the company. You know how the government is pushing for more women in leadership roles? My company is just trying to boost their numbers. In reality, the men still dominate the discussions, and hardly any of my proposals are accepted. I'm just checking off management tasks that higher-ups want me to do. She lowered her head slightly, hiding her frustration. That's not true. I really respect your work. You're always so precise and give clear, rational instructions. That's why you were given your role. Not just as a token, I said earnestly. Thank you. You're the only one who's ever said that to me directly, Richard. Kimberly looked surprised by my words, but after a moment, she gave me a shy smile and said that. Since yesterday, I've been seeing expressions on her face that I've never seen before. If you don't mind me asking, do you really not have anyone you're dating or thinking of marrying? I still think it would be nice to introduce someone real to your parents someday. From the way Benjamin told me to stay for lunch, as if trying to hide his embarrassment, I got the feeling that if Kimberly chose someone, he'd probably grumble but ultimately accept them. He's likely just waiting for the day he gets to meet the person his daughter will marry. No, that's why I asked you. To be honest, I don't really have the desire to get married. I just don't see the point in it. Maybe I'm just not cut out for it, with my personality. I've always struggled with relationships. But lately, just a little bit. I've started to think that someone who stands up for me, like you did, might actually be nice. Her cool eyes met mine, but there was a hint of warmth in them now. And I don't usually like being in the spotlight or standing up for people either. But recently, I found myself wanting to protect someone, without thinking twice about it. I could feel the warmth in my face reflecting in her eyes. As the distance between our faces grew just a little closer, the evening chime of the clock echoed in the shop, and we instinctively broke the gaze we had been holding. When I looked away, my eyes landed on the calendar hanging in the kitchen, and in that moment, I made a decision and spoke up. Would you let me help with turning the shop around? Kimberly looked surprised, her face still a little red. But I don't want to trouble you with anything more, she said hesitantly. I want to help. Please let me. Gripping her hand as I pleaded, my seriousness seemed to take her by surprise, and she nodded with wide eyes. 3 months have passed since then. Welcome. I'm now helping out in Benjamin's diner, chopping cabbage, cooking rice, and doing whatever else I can. I can only come on my days off, of course, and although Benjamin initially said, we don't need help from an amateur, after seeing me come nearly every week, he finally gave in. Benjamin's health has been great since he got out of the hospital. Hey! Don't let the soup boil over. Yes, sir. Sorry. Watching us from the dining area, the local regulars, already used to this sight, sat back, drinking beer as if it were just another afternoon. Man, since Kim's boyfriend started coming around, the place has been full of life again. You've been posting lots of promotions on that. What's it called? Social media. And not just that, there were a ton of nasty reviews online about the shop. Like people saying it smelled like rotten fish or the service was awful. But Kim and Rick took care of all that.
The internet these days is incredible. Samantha added, clearly relieved by the recent upswing in business.
I had been puzzled by something Daniel had said about poor reviews, so I decided to look into the shop's online reputation.
Sure enough, the diner had an unbelievably low rating of 1 star, with comments like,
"It smelled like rotten fish," and "the staff were terrible."
But Benjamin and Samantha didn't recognize any of these complaints.
What was even stranger was that during Benjamin's hospital stay, 2 more negative reviews were posted, even though the shop was closed.
Now I was sure of it.
The dates when the negative reviews started appearing coincided with the opening of the shop across the street.
It was almost certainly their doing.
I had heard of similar cases from clients before. They recruit people through crowdsourcing to post negative reviews about rival stores. These reviewers are paid for leaving bad comments, pretending as if they had visited the shop.
People who have never even been to the store write reviews as if they were actual customers. It was despicable.
I responded to the malicious reviews, questioning the reviewers about the date of their visit and what they had ordered.
At the same time,
I used the shop's social media account to post a warning that we might pursue legal action against those posting false reviews.
What happened next?
The negative reviews started disappearing, and soon the overall rating went back up to 4 stars. Supportive comments from actual customers who had visited the shop began to appear on social media. When I showed this to Benjamin, he muttered a curt "I see," but the slight upward curl of his lips betrayed his satisfaction.
Richard, you're really something, aren't you? You've been hiding your skills at work, haven't you?
Kimberly said with a sideways glance. The truth is, I never struggled with studying or learning new things. I picked up skills quickly, no matter the subject. That's why I was never really motivated.
It was the same at work. I would laugh along with others, going through the motions day by day. I watched passionate people with cold, indifferent eyes.
But after meeting Kimberly and the people here, I found myself wanting to change, to protect them. For the first time in my life, I felt that living was actually enjoyable.
I wanted to be useful to others. And for that, I would use my abilities to their fullest. Just then, a customer walked in.
The sound of the sliding door opening was followed by Samantha's cheerful greeting, "Welcome." Then, with a more formal tone, she added, "Jessica.
It's been a while. It really has. I've been traveling for work,
but I finally got back here the day before yesterday," Jessica replied. Their friendly conversation filled the air, and when I glanced out from the kitchen, I saw a familiar older woman standing there.
"Oh, you're the young man I met at Tokyo Station."
Her eyes met mine, and she immediately recognized me, calling out with a happy smile,
"Ah, you're the one from then."
I blinked, and then it clicked. It was the woman whose wallet I had helped find at the station 3 months ago.
"I've been looking for you."
I heard there was someone from Tokyo helping out here, so I thought I'd stop by.
"I'm so glad I found you," she said, smiling warmly.
I couldn't believe she had come all the way here based on that rumor.
"You know Jess?"
The local regulars seemed surprised to learn that I knew this Jessica woman, so I explained that I had simply helped her out at Tokyo Station.
"Do Benjamin and Samantha know Jessica as well? Know them?" "Jessica here is."
One of the regulars began to explain, but before he could finish, the shop's door slid open again.
"Hello there."
It was Daniel who had entered. He had the same smug grin on his face as the last time he showed up at the shop.
"What do you want?" We all knew he wasn't here as a customer.
Kimberly shot him a suspicious look as she asked, "Oh, I just figured this place might be on the verge of shutting down, so I thought I'd check if it'd make a good spot for one of our new tenants."
"But wow, looks like you've got quite a crowd in here." "How strange."
"Folks, let me tell you, this shop serves spoiled food.
And they overcharge customers they don't like.
You should really avoid this place." Daniel suddenly started yelling, trying to scare the customers.
"How dare you say that?"
We've never done such things. Kimberly shouted back, flustered, trying to defend the shop.
You've got no proof that I'm lying, do you?
There are reviews from customers saying just that.
And it looks like this place is threatening people to get those reviews deleted, isn't it?
Daniel sneered.
I stepped forward to face him. You seem awfully invested in checking out this shop's reviews. Even going through the details?
Well, it would be bad for business if the place across the street scared off my customers, so of course, as a business owner, I keep tabs on that. Daniel shot back with a smirk, his brow furrowing briefly. These days, it seems there are plenty of people with low online literacy, willing to write fake reviews just to earn a bit of pocket money.
It's easy to manipulate public opinion when you're paying for it, isn't it? My words hit right on target. Daniel visibly faltered, showing clear signs of agitation. What are you implying? That I did something like that?
Where's your proof? He shouted, clearly rattled. Before I could respond, an unexpected voice rang out.
Leave. Now. It was Jessica.
Her voice was calm, but there was an undeniable strength behind it, a stark contrast to the kind demeanor she had shown earlier.
What's your deal, old lady? This doesn't concern you. Stay out of it. Daniel spat.
At that moment, the entire room fell silent, and the tension grew thick. Even the local regulars and Benjamin glared daggers at Daniel.
You idiot, one of the regulars growled. This woman's the biggest landowner in the area.
Nearly all the land around here, including the building your shop is in, belongs to her.
Do you even know who you're messing with?
Daniel's face drained of color as he realized the gravity of the situation.
This is perfect timing. I came here today to inform you that you'll need to vacate our building. What? Why? I've paid the rent on time. Check your contract. Anyone opening a business here is required to join the local Merchants Association and contribute to revitalizing the shopping district.
Not only have you refused to join the association, but you've also tried to sabotage this long-standing business.
For that, you're being evicted. Jessica stated calmly. That's a breach of contract. Silence. I will not tolerate anyone who disrupts this land. Jessica's fierce voice echoed through the shop.
The local regulars standing beside her glared at Daniel with murderous intent. At this point, Daniel had no chance. In a rural town, you can't afford to disregard the influence of landowners and their connections. While the culture here may sometimes feel oppressive, those very connections are what protect and sustain this place. Daniel's business was as good as over in this town. And if you try anything else against this shop, I will personally sue your company. I've already gathered evidence that your business paid people to write fake reviews. As if to deliver the final blow, I spoke in a low voice, and Daniel, his face turning pale, bolted out of the store.
I'm so sorry for the commotion. The food here is absolutely delicious, so please, everyone, take your time and enjoy. Oh my, that was scary.
Jessica's playful words, full of wit and charm, instantly brightened the tense atmosphere in the shop.
A group of young tourist girls even started clapping, exclaiming, "Grandma, you're so cool." Was that enough of a thank you? Her sudden words made me blink in surprise. For helping me with my wallet. I never got to properly thank you, did I? This woman didn't flaunt her status or wealth unnecessarily. What a remarkable person. Thank you so much.
I bowed deeply to Jessica, and following my lead, Kimberly and the others also bowed to her in gratitude. The following Sunday night, Kimberly and I were on the bullet train back to the city center.
Richard, I can't thank you enough for everything. Really, I'm so grateful in ways words can't express. It's nothing. I was just doing what I wanted to do. Don't worry about it. It's always like this. As soon as we get on the train back, we revert to being just boss and subordinate.
The problem with Daniel's shop seems to be settled now.
So, you don't need to keep going out of your way.
I'll take over managing the social media from here.
As for my parents,
I'll just tell them the truth.
that we never actually dated.
And that it was all just an act. Kimberly spoke quietly, looking out the window.
Was this her way of saying the fake relationship was over? Benjamin, he knew. He figured out that you and I were lying. Kimberly, with a surprised expression, met my gaze through the train window.
Last night, after the shop had closed and Benjamin was having his usual late-night drink with leftovers as snacks, he called me over.
Hey, why don't you join me for a drink?
It was the first time Benjamin had invited me to drink with him, and I felt a mix of surprise and happiness. Over the past few months, and especially after the incident with Daniel, I could sense that Benjamin had come to acknowledge me. But at the same time, the guilt of the lie weighed heavier on me.
I love this place.
Even though I've only been helping out for a few months, I've grown fond of Benjamin, Samantha, and the people of this town who welcomed me.
That's why I was torn, wondering if I should confess the truth. Can I keep helping here?
The words slipped out before I could stop them, and I immediately regretted it. I had no right to reveal the truth without talking to Kimberly first. Benjamin, pouring himself a beer, looked at me intently.
No, sorry, just talking to myself. I quickly backtracked. If you want to come whenever you like. The folks around here are big on community.
But they've welcomed people who've moved here because they love the place. They appreciate especially the younger ones who can bring life back to the town.
But we can do without people like him, though. Benjamin continued as he poured beer into my glass. The people in the shopping district like you. It's not just our shop, you've done things to help the whole area thrive. When you're not around on weekends, the younger guys in the district are disappointed. Thanks to you, we're busier than ever. And we could use all the help we can get. Whether you're with my daughter or not, it doesn't matter.
I felt a warmth in my chest, hearing how Benjamin and the locals had accepted me, but I was stunned by his final words.
Benjamin, you knew?
Kimberly has always loved the mackerel sashimi I make. When she was little, she used to say, I won't marry anyone who can't fillet mackerel like my dad.
You couldn't fillet a fish when you first came here. And you still need some practice. She's my precious only daughter. I can tell when she's lying right away.
Benjamin's voice, as he lifts the corner of his mouth, is gentle. I remembered the calendar I saw in the kitchen the first time I visited the shop, where Benjamin had written Kimberly.
Homecoming in clumsy handwriting. She's not very honest. Stubborn as a mule. But she's kinder than anyone. Richard, do you love her?
Benjamin, the awkward father who probably buys the best mackerel for his daughter's visit, asks me this question. Back on the train, Kimberly's face was flushed red, her eyes misty.
Dad shouldn't have. Sorry, Richard. That must have been an awkward question to answer.
Kimberly wants to know how I answered Benjamin's question, but she can't bring herself to ask. She looked away from me, embarrassed.
I love you. What? I told Benjamin that I love you. Kimberly, will you be with me, for real this time, and start a relationship with marriage in mind?
Last night, after I gave him my answer, Benjamin had simply nodded, saying, I see, with a satisfied look on his face.
Now, I wanted to make Kimberly happy.
Tears streamed down her cheeks as she finally turned to face me.
Yes, I'd love to.
On the train back to Tokyo, we quietly held hands.
A year later, Benjamin's shop and the rest of the shopping district were thriving more than ever.
Ideas that I and the younger folks came up with were coming to life, thanks to Jessica's support. Even though I still work in Tokyo during the week, I've been approaching my job with a more positive mindset. Kimberly, understanding my desire to work behind the scenes, created a team within the planning and sales department that focuses on support roles, which has made a big difference. It wasn't just for me. Her efforts have improved the workflow of the whole department, earning her a lot of praise. I just want everyone, including Rick, to be able to use their strengths. Kimberly, speaking with that adorable smile she shows only to me, is still someone I deeply respect as a boss. Even though we can't visit every weekend, I know that Kimberly now looks forward to going back to her family's diner with me. At our company, the option to work fully remotely has grown significantly over the past few years. In fact, there are even people who have moved from the city to other places. How about we start living together soon? As Kimberly poured coffee in my kitchen, I asked her with the same casual tone I might use to suggest going out for dinner. I'm fine with living together, but which apartment will we move into? Mine's just a little bigger, I think. She responded so calmly, without a hint of surprise, as if moving in together was a given. I couldn't help but smile. What if we moved to the seaside town we both love? What? She stopped pouring and looked up at me, her face surprised. Are you serious? Yeah. If you'll say yes. Kimberly rushed over from the kitchen and threw herself into my arms. Thank you, I love you so much, Rick. Her voice was slightly shaky with emotion, and I held her close. I love you too. As we gazed at each other, suddenly both our stomachs growled at the same time. Hey! What should we have for dinner? Kimberly laughed shyly, and I couldn't help but smile along with her. It was the beginning of summer. The season when the fish are at their best had come around again. How about we make mackerel sashimi? Because she's the person I'll spend every day of my life with. I'll share my love with her at just the right moments. A life that begins and ends with love. That's the kind of life I want to build with her, in that special place.